Hello designers. Our tutorial today is an introductory tutorial to creating content and making some simple edits in Blender. For this project you will have already had to download Blender and install it. Just simply click on the downloaded file, open up the one that looks like a hard drive, and install the exe file. I went ahead and made a little tab here at the bottom in my hanging dock just so it's easy for me to find. Went ahead and opened Blender and just started a new project. Under new, you would say general, which is all I did. You'll get this space here with a cube already started out in it. I'm going to walk you through some really simple tools just to get you started. Here on the left we have our move tool, which is quick command G. You can also just grab any one of these handles and move your object around on any of the X, Y, or Z axis. Up here on the top right, we have a little bit of a guide to let us know where's up and where's down. From a bunch of new Blender users, I always get asked, how do I tell when my object is up? So if you want to make sure it's up, the Z axis needs to be pointed up. Below our move tool, quick command G, we have our rotate tool, and here we end up with the same thing. If we want to make sure that we are grabbing on these grabbers or handles here and rotating our object as needed, you can always right click your object and it'll go back to whatever position it was in prior. Below our rotate tool is scale. Same thing here, you can rotate or you can increase the scale by using one grabber, or grab it by the outside white circle and it will do all of the different proportions. So again, I'm kind of back to my cube. If I grab it by the white outside circle, I can scale it proportionately, or grab by simply one of them to change our object. Those are your three basic tools that we will be using here. There's a transform tool, but we want to make sure we keep our objects that we import in proportion, so we're just going to talk about those top three. Over here below our reorientation axis, we have our zoom tool, so we can zoom in and out of our space. This is really helpful because when you import your objects, your .obj or your .stl, they'll often come in huge, so you just need to zoom out. Don't worry about sizing. That is a step we will do after these 25 steps. So if you haven't already, please download the instructions. It's very easy to miss one and not have the project turn out the way you want. So I'll highlight the steps that are especially important to note. We have our, again, our zoom tool because our objects come in big, and then we have a hand tool, just like the panning tool when we hit spacebar in Photoshop. Over here we have a lot of options in our layers tab. Do not let those overwhelm you. We will simply be using this little one here. It's an upside down green triangle, which is an object data properties, and we'll be using this wrench to add modifiers to our objects. That is it for this, so you can really ignore a lot of the other features in here until you get a little bit more acquainted. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete my the cube that just comes in and start with number 1. Import, so file, import our .stl or .obj. For this one, I know that I'm going to use a little phone stand. Kind of looks like this. And it is an STL. Open up your menu and click through to navigate to where your files are saved. And this one is phone stand, STL, import. Wow, like I said, that came in really big. So we could either use our scale tool to scale it down, or we can use our zoom out tool. It also came in on its side, which is not uncommon. For that, we're going to grab our rotate tool and this red tab and make sure we are nice and lined up. Here we go. That looks great. And we can zoom around and see if we need to bring it down to fit. Really wants to snap up here, so we'll let it kind of live in that space. All right, so we are now into step 2 under object mode. There's object mode and edit mode. We do not need to worry about any of the other modes for this assignment. Here we're going to switch to edit mode. We want to make sure I go back and when we switch to edit mode, I wanted you guys to see what would happen. Our STL turns into a series of planes and vectors. At any point, if you grab any one of those, it will be distorted. So make sure that we are aware of these object mode and edit mode. Here we're going to, for this note, we're going to add some text. So we go to add text. When the text comes in, it will also be very small. So let's grab our scale and just scale that guy on up. We can even do a little bit of early rotation so that we know where it is at. Let's pop that back like so. That looks great. And then we can use our grabbers to slide it forward and over into a position where we can begin to work with it. Here we've got a text and it is obviously in object mode, right? Because it is outlined in orange. We're going to switch to edit mode, and that is step 4. Your text will turn gray and a cursor will appear on the right. There's our cursor. So let's delete this out and we're just going to use MGD as our text for our multimedia graphic design department. Let's pop back to object mode, and then we are going to work with just a little bit more sizing. Again, I'm going to bring this down, kind of rotate it around, and slide it on over, and slide it up. This way we know we are approximate position to where this will be placed. I'm also going to scale it down just a little bit. There we go. That looks great. And don't worry, we're going to spend a lot of time tweaking it and moving it into the correct position. So all of that will happen. And we're going to also, not in the directions, but change the typeface. So let's start off here by going to our step number 6. We return to object mode. Step number 7, we're going to find this A right over here under our layers tab, and we're going to open up geometry. We're going to cursor down to extrude, and we can watch the text become thicker. Pretty cool, right? For this one, I think we want to have the text go all the way through, so it'll be a cutout. And in my notes, I suggested 0.15 millimeter. We'll make this one just a little bigger so we make sure it goes all the way through. If you do not want it to go all the way through, you will place it so that it is only cutting through half of your object. And again, we'll run through those scenarios too. So now we can see that this guy is nice and thick, and I'm going to do one more thing in font. So we're going to go over here to our open font, it just looks like a file folder, and go to wherever you know you have some TTF stashes. I've got some in here in awesome free download, and we'll go to a Little Sunshine. It's a pretty typeface, and open font, and you can see we have simply been, the font just changed nicely for us. Now, since it's a little bit of a smaller font, I can stretch it out just a little bit and scale it up so that it'll fit into our object nicely. Ooh, that's going to be really, really pretty. We are on now step 11, move text into position. We're going to use the red, green, and blue grabbers to move it into position. And it looks like we have our edge nicely positioned here. And then we're just going to grab our green one and slide that through. And we'll move this so that we can see exactly that it's going all the way through our object. And now we can decide where we want it to go. I think that looks absolutely fine. nice and centered, not too big. And as we scroll through, we can see this is going to cut out and go all the way through our object. All right, we're going to go over to, now we're on step 13. Step 12, we used our scale to fit and center for proportionate scaling. Now we're going to step 13, highlight our text. We can tell our text is highlighted because it is in orange. When we right click on it, if we are going to step 14, right click convert to mesh. Once we convert this to a mesh, it is no longer editable in terms of changing the text. So if you had a typo or something like that, you can still scale it up and down and move it around. So we convert to mesh, and now if we go to edit mode, we can see it is a series of vectors. Awesome. Now we are going to go to step 16, which is to highlight our torus. That is the object that is going to be the one that remains unchanged. So we go over here and we highlight torus as our phone stand. Then we move up to our wrench icon, which is step 17. Click on add modifier. We're going to scoot over to under the generate tab to put a Boolean modifier. That is step 19. Now this is the part where you can miss a few things. So be very sure to go over to difference. If we were going to do union, we would be connecting these two pieces so that it would print the text into and on the phone stand. But for this one, we're going to click difference because we want to remove it from that. Now here's a step 21. Please don't miss this. You need to tell the program what file is to be removed. So you click on text, and then again, step 22, don't miss this one. You need to apply it. We'll click that and it's applied. Now we can go over here and check out our file and just remove that. And since we are done with it, it has gone all the way through our object. We can right click and delete. At this point, we are pretty much done, but we've got to get this file to the printer. So we're going to say File, Export as an STL. Our printer prefers STLs, but OBGs would probably work just as well. Go ahead and label your file. We'll call this one phone stand MGD little bit of sunshine so that we know which typeface we use, and export the STL. It is just that simple. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that Blender feels a little bit more user friendly.